Hey everyone, thank you for joining our podcast, Real Estate Success DFW. I have a ultimate guest right here. Professional hockey player is going to teach you all about hockey. Probably going to help very many of you, but we're going to talk about real estate because he has a lot of real estate advice and he's done a lot of real estate. Hey, Bob Lachance, how are you, buddy?
Very good. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you for jumping on. The connection we have is you have a lot of really good insights to help agents in a couple of different spaces. I always want to start with background because, most of us, we are in middle school, high school, we take classes, and in no way, shape, or form, very many of us say, I want to be a real estate agent when I grow up. So you've got a license, you've got a team, you've got several companies you've owned. How did you get into real estate?
Well, I think we talked about this before. I actually left two classes short of getting my degree. So I played hockey at Boston University and signed a professional contract and always said I would go back to school. Fast forward 8 years when I was done playing, I either had a choice to go back to school or jump into an industry that did not require a degree. So I chose the latter with the thought process that I could always go back and this go back part-time. Fast forward today, never went back. So jumped into real estate because of you did not need a degree, to be very, very honest with you. I didn't want to go back to school. And so I jumped into real estate and 20, what, something years later, so back in 2004, did 2,000 plus transactions, a bunch of different businesses. But that's the main reason why I got into real estate because I did not need a degree.
Okay. Now you did a lot of flips.
Yep.
That's a bit of a unique proposition. I know people that will get their license so they can save money on the commission and get into the
Mhm.
flipping game. That's another transition that people will get into real estate. In the flipping side, were you like locating and then finding the contractors and then finding the financing opportunities? And then
Yeah.
are you just financing them yourself? How did you do flips?
So my first deal, actually, I farmed areas, drove around neighborhoods, and I saw a property that was listed with another agent. This back in again 2004. So I called on it, and at this time I was reading a lot of books on rehabbing. I didn't know what type of investor slash agent I was at the time because I was just trying to feel my way out. And made an offer on a house. Properties listed for 185. Made an offer at 135. They accepted it. And I was like, uh-oh, what do I do next? Because I did not have contractors. I did not have financing set up. I was kind of a fish out of water, but I did know that I had to take action. And one thing that I always do is I'll figure it out as I go. You ask a lot of questions. You talk to, at that time, met a good buddy of mine as a real estate agent. So I started leaning on him to ask him questions, financing, where can I get contractors, etc. So it kind of guided me in the right path in the right direction. Then ended up closing on the property, rehabbing it, and making about $32,000 in 2 months. And then I kind of looked at myself in the mirror and I said, uh-oh, what do I do next? Because I was back and forth to Home Depot about 3 times a day for 2 months straight, a month straight. And then I had to start creating systems and really going out there and networking. And I met a lot of agents at that time that were going to feed me more deals. But then I jumped into short sales because this is back in 2004, 2005.
Yeah.
And I got really good at short sales because of a mentor of mine that took me under his wing. And I door knocked actually for a year straight. I didn't say that. After I did my flip, he took me under his wing. He gave me a list of pre-foreclosure properties. Those are individuals that were losing their house. And I would
Yeah.
literally go door to door to door from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. every Monday through Friday. And then when I got home, I'd go to 411.com or White Pages, and I would put those names, if they didn't answer, into a kind of skip trace tool, and I get their number and I would call until 7 o'clock before I had to eat dinner with the family. So that's what I did literally for a year straight while learning the business.
Well, that'll educate you pretty quick. Ironically, I did the same thing. I worked for a company and they were wanting to buy flip properties. They wanted to buy pre-foreclosures and we already did all the title work. So they stripped it down to, let's say there were 300 properties in Dallas County that were going to foreclosure. We might strip it down to about 20 that are prime.
Yeah.
Like they have equity. If there's value there, we can offer them enough money to get them out. And the comps showed that we could make money on it. And we would just sit there on the phone calling all day. And then we would go out in the afternoons and start knocking on all these doors all over Dallas Fort Worth altogether. And I remember that I didn't do it. I didn't do it for a year. I probably would have burned out way before you did.
Yeah.
But I do remember those days. And we successfully bought a few over about 3 or 4 months. And he was really strict. Like he made it really hard to do.
Well, I think the positive thing of that is, like you said, you learn a lot, right? So, as agents, door knocking is one of the ways, obviously, to acquire properties or prospect. That takes a lot of time out of your day. I don't think we have to do it anymore at the scale that we had to because of technology and outsourcing and things like that. But I think for us, you and I both to do it, I think it was transformational what we learned.
Sure. I have a few tenets that I share with agents in general just to help them. One of them is we want to do things that is sustainable.
Hmm.
And some of those type of things will wear you out pretty quick. You might do it for a season, but that may not be a 20-year plan. And we want to do things that are duplicatable that we can teach anybody to do. That's also a core thing. And then the other thing, which you specialized in, is we want to do it without spending money.
Hmm.
You spent almost nothing. It was just sweat equity of you
Yep.
going and the list and the skip tracing, all that was cheap.
Yeah, and
So
I want to talk about that just for 2 seconds on that side of it is I truly believe that you should try something first before you outsource it. So for instance, like if you have agents that are doing their own transaction coordinating as an example, or they're doing their own prospecting, do it first and then look for an assistant to help you, whether it's a virtual assistant or someone that you're partnering with for an age. If you do a lot of deals with agents, right, you build your team and you have some individuals that do certain tasks. Do it first so then you could be the mentor and the teacher and the coach on that side of it, and you understand what they're going through if they need any assistance.
sure. And I tell you, like for me, I've done a number of transactions. Probably half of them are investor
Yeah.
because I speak their language.
Yep.
And that really helps if you want to get in the investor space, you may consider being a part of the process and learning all the different elements to it between contractor language and proper percentages of ARV and some of the basic things just to be able to talk their language and quickly find them what they're looking for without them having to, question everything, right? So because you know what they want.
And that was my buddy Art Rose when he's the first guy I met him when I first started. And he's the one who helped me with all of that, all the investor lingo, took me under his wing. And he's the reason why I got my real estate license as well.
What was his name?
His name was Art Rose.
Art Rose. Okay.
Awesome dude. Awesome guy.
And I think we kind of glossed over it, but mentorship's pretty critical too, right? Finding someone that knows how to do it at an expert level. One of the things that a lot of residential real estate agents don't accept is taking a low commission split on the first few.
Hmm.
You need someone that's really good. Pay them 50%. It's
That's
worth
right.
it. You
Yeah.
know, they all want to squeeze every job and every opportunity in the beginning. It's like you have no value that you add.
Hmm.
Learn the value to add, and then you can come and start asking for a more reasonable commission split.
I love the way you put that because our newer agents don't understand that concept. It's a very simple concept. You give before you get. If you give, I will promise you, you will get tenfold in the back end. Don't be greedy up front. You give more, and then I promise you, it will, just like you said, you always win.
Yeah, it's just a good principle. I know in commercial that's normal, but
Hmm.
residential, they all want to try to earn the most money they can on it. Like, okay, so they brought in their brother-in-law is going to buy a house. Okay, well, they want to get all the money. It's like, hey, how about we make you be the hero and
Right.
we don't leave any mistakes on the table and lose opportunities? But you need to properly pay your mentor. And then I just think mentors are underpaid.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I mean, I think everyone needs a mentor. I mean, I continue to have mentors today, and I've been in this business for over 20 years.
A couple questions with that. So you've done all these flips.
Yep.
Are you still flipping?
I am
Okay.
mostly buying and reselling. So we have seven on the investment side. We have seven acquisition guys. We have all our virtual assistants driving in leads to our sales floor, and it's their job to get them under contract. And then a lot of times we actually purchase them, close on them, clean them up a little bit, and then resell them.
Like wholetailing?
Correct.
Yeah, so these are languages that most agents aren't going to know. So we've got, because I did so much investment space. So you have acquisition and disposition. So acquisition for off-market properties that they're calling and finding opportunities that aren't listed. And
Correct.
then you get a really good price on it. And in some cases, you promote it to try to get the difference for,
Hmm.
whatever the difference spread is. If I buy it for 150, I sell it for 180, and then you're able to make 30 on it. And then the end buyer is the investor that buys it at 180. If it doesn't sell, then you could buy it yourself, do a
Correct.
small wholetailing, meaning we just do minimums. We take care of the things that scare everybody. foundation, roof, plumbing, electrical, all the critical, maybe not the cosmetic, but we get all the stuff that scares you, and then
Mhm.
we give it out there. And you have people on the retail side that will buy it and say, hey, I can put in floors and paint, you
See,
know.
especially when we're in a market. So here in Connecticut, we're in a market where there's not a lot of inventory. I know Dallas has changed a little bit through the last number of months, but in Connecticut, there's still a lack of inventory. So there's still a lot of end buyers looking for product. So we get them before they go on the MLS, and then so on the wholesale side, which is really important, we have funding set up to where we could actually buy it and close on it. So then we own it, and then we get our crew in to just do it, like you said, a little cleanup, and then we find an end buyer. A lot of times we use the MLS, or we just try to go direct to our buyers list, but probably 98% of the time we're using the MLS and agents to sell it.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's going to be still your higher price point because they're the emotional buyers, right? I mean, you and I know. So you've got VAs kind of laced in there. Oh, last thing before I pass it, the mentor. You say you still have a mentor or people you call today? Do you have a coach? Do you have mentors? To explain how you are
Yeah.
today.
So I'm part of 3 different masterminds. So those masterminds have about a couple hundred real estate investors, some of the top investors and real estate agents, brokerages in the country. So I have access to obviously those guys. They're like peers like us. If we get off a call and I know exactly what you do, and I'll reach out to you and say, hey, I'm in your area, Shaune. What can we do? I have help. I have a buyer in your area, or I have a flip coming up, an opportunity. We could do that, or we get on calls. So we have some coaches that we actually, a company called Ramp that we use on the investment side, as business coaches and mentors as well.
How about you personally?
Me personally,
You've had
I
mentors,
don't
you've had
pay
people in
someone
your
to,
life.
yeah, and 100%. I just look at it as, I thought you meant like, if I'm paying someone one-on-one right now as a mentor. No, but I literally have mentors in my office. I have other individuals that I reach out to that I talk pretty much a couple times a month. So the answer is yes, but do I pay for that one-on-one mentorship besides my mastermind? I do not, but I do have mentors, yes.
Okay. You have people to call when you have a challenge, but
Correct.
maybe not specifically for growth and accountability.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think it's important. I had one for about 4 months and I just terminated it, but I'm going to need to get somebody back.
Yep.
Just for my own, I can talk to people like my peers all day, but they're not going to hold me accountable. And my wife's is going to have a hard time holding me accountable. You
Yeah.
know, hey, you
Agreed.
said you would sell this many, you didn't, you suck. That only goes so far. But you get someone else that says, hey, here's your steps, and then you end up letting yourself down in the process. That's what kind of that generating energy comes from.
So I do have that then, because that's through the coaching program that we have, because we do quarterlies. We have flying coaches that come in and do quarterlies with us. So in essence, yes, I do have
Okay. And then
it.
maybe you list out where you should be, and then they kind of like, why are you not there? What do we got to do to change?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
I think every agent should have that in their life. If not, the direct team lead, someone should be there to help them. Let's talk about VAs for a moment, because I know that's a real passion that you have. How long you been in the VA business?
So
How long have you used a VA? Let's start with that.
my first VA started in 2013.
Okay.
And the reason why I did is I helped start a real estate education company in 2007 while I was flipping properties. And one of the things I realized is every single one of us, me included, we really didn't have enough time in our day to finish all the tasks needed, because a lot of people that sign up for our coaching program, they had 2 jobs, or they had their real estate was a side hustle, and they wanted to get into real estate, but they had a corporate W-2 job. And what would happen is I would get on a call with them, and I'd give them a plan to map out for one week that they need to do to make a step forward to get to go towards those goals. I realized 9 out of 10 people did not do any of those tasks. I was like, why didn't you do those? You're paying for this program. Why
Yeah.
didn't you do them? And that was the accountability part, but they didn't have enough time, or the excuses, all that stuff. You had to push them past whatever mindset blocks they had. And I was always looking for a product or a service that could help them do it, kind of like the easy button. And then in 2013, I got introduced to what a virtual assistant was. And I'm like, huh, I need this in my own business. So I hired a VA, and light bulb went off after using a virtual assistant for a year that this could be a business, because this is exactly what I was looking for our students. So launched my first virtual assistant company in 2014.
And you launched it to be accountability partner for your students?
I launched it to actually do the tasks for the student. So
Oh,
I
what they were not doing.
correct. So all those
Okay.
were not doing any of the tasks that they needed to do to, push the ball down the field, if you will.
Sure. Organize your contacts,
Correct.
set up a schedule of people you call or whatever it is.
Whatever it is, yeah, CRM, whether it's database management, email, SMS follow-up. But if on the agent side, it's communication, prospecting. A lot of them needed help with the transaction coordinating side, etc.
Uh, At what point do you think would be ideal for an agent to consider hiring a virtual assistant?
What I would do, I mean, I would see where your time is getting wasted. And you brought up a word that is very important. It's called burnout. Where you feel like your energy is getting sapped because all of us are different. Every one of us is different. We have a different personality profile, and some tasks in our profile just drain our energy. Those are the tasks that you mentioned cold calling. That's one of the tasks that you will get burnt out on if you continue to do that for years upon years upon years.
And that's good. So we identify things that we are absorbing. Now, most of them don't realize that until they're in the business long enough because everything's new. But I
Yep.
mean, wouldn't you think maybe you're closing one a month, two a month? The cost of getting a VA, I think, is always a hang up to people. They don't realize how inexpensive it is. And if you want to do the simple math, right? Let's say if I did my last transaction and I added it all up, the amount of time I spent, let's say I spent 10 hours, I made $10,000, whatever it is,
Mhm.
I'm making, anywhere from five to $700 an hour, whatever that number is. It's a pretty substantial number. Then
Yep.
you start realizing for the transaction part, if I'm worth even say 400 an hour, I think that's even still probably a little on the above average, but let's say 400 an hour. Maybe 400 an hour is not worth it for me to write contracts or do amendments or or send out the contractors to find out, what repairs we need to do, get estimates, things like that. Maybe 400 an hour is a little high for that. If I can hire someone to do that same job for anywhere from six to eight, nine, $10 an hour, and they can do the same skill I have. They're not interacting with the client.
Correct.
That's a great vacuum that they can address. Or what other things do you see as really a value add for VAs to do things for agents?
Yeah, I mean, anything. I'll give you a perfect example. So we have a guy in my office that's also an agent who hired a VA to do email management, chat room management. He does his MLS management, and he does phone management and lead generation because he buys properties not only here in Connecticut, but also in Oklahoma. So they go to, he has the VA go through realtor.com, search for properties that fits his window with a max price of about $100,000 and then puts in offers for them. So then as soon as someone comes back with something, then it goes right to the individuals in our office. So that's how he's using a VA, which is a perfect example of how to use, how he used the VA. He's one of our top agents too in our office.
So this VA is not in the office.
Nope.
They can do 100% of this from anywhere in the world. I think most of us that have been doing this long enough know probably more than half of them are coming from either the Philippines
Mhm.
or even South America has really come on the scenes as opportunities because
Yep.
they can do even phone work because they don't carry that heavy accent that other countries tend to have.
Yep.
Because I mean, English and Spanish are in the romantic language, and I know Filipino language is in that romantic language space.
Yep.
So they use a lot of the same letters and things. They just might have some accent, but you understand them.
Yeah.
So
And
that's an opportunity.
that's where all of ours out are all we're out of the Philippines, 100% out of the Philippines. So
And I know that's for most people would go to. I know for tech work, they might go Indian, but if they want to go interacting, normal conversations, doing all your back office stuff, and we look at it, we say, wow, $10 an hour, how can you raise a family? I had a girl working for me. I paid her $8 an hour. This is about 10 years ago.
yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know how she can work for that. She is
Mhm.
a full certified nurse.
Yeah.
She made more working for me than she did working for, the clinic down the street.
Yeah.
And she could work all night because they work opposite hours. So she's got all day available. It's interesting.
It's just a cost of living is a lot different. We have our big event next November, I think it's about 18th. So coming up next month. And we have over 500 of our VAs flying in and driving into our event. And So I'm there. I get to see everything, which is phenomenal. And they are paid well. They do well. It's just a different living.
And there are differences. You got to pay, you don't have to, but most time it's good, a good incentive to pay them a big Christmas bonus. It's just different things that you learn about when you're working with them. I don't want to skip over this, but the main thing I wanted to take away from that, if I'm doing, one or two transactions a month
Mhm.
and I'm paying 400 a month for 10 hours a week or so of VA work, and they're taking those emails from you. They're taking some of the cold calling away from you. They're taking a lot of these marketing things away from you. And you can focus on things that you make the most money doing, which is showing houses, writing contracts, and negotiating contracts. That's what we get paid to do. That's our best skill, our listing presentations. We get paid the most money per hour to do those things. And we can't outsource those. You can
Yeah.
outsource tasks, not responsibilities. That was
Mhm.
a
Yep.
term we used to use. I worked in HR for 10 years, even before VAs. We talk about what can a manager give away, and he can give away tasks, not responsibilities. I think that's a great place to think about things to offload. But I just want to make sure I emphasize now you can go from making 10, 15,000 a month to 20, 25,000 a month with only effort in areas that pay you the most money. So your profitability soars.
Yeah, and I know a big thing for agents is obviously branding and marketing, right? We have to be out there. Our face has to be out there. Our logo has to be out there, whatever that is. And you got to, in my opinion, the most effective and the way to use a VA too is using them on the branding side because we need to be posting all the time. I know for me, I hate posting. I absolutely do not like it because you get busy, like, oh, I got to post again, or you do something, I got to post again. You could use a virtual assistant, set it and forget it, have them post every single day. We could do a podcast like this, send it over to a VA,
Yeah.
and they could post every single day. They could cut them up, cut all your different videos up, and you're out there all the time as the expert in the area. I think that's a very, very good way to just continue to promote yourself.
So I know you emphasize this is probably what you were covering. The best marketing channels for lead generation with working with the VA is the fact that they are able to, I mean, they do it as a task,
Yeah.
post 3 times a week in Facebook, post 6 times a week on Instagram, whatever it is. And
Yep.
then you can repurpose. So you get about 3 to 4 months in, you can turn around and start using some of them again.
Yeah.
You don't have to have hours and hours of video.
Yeah, and that's correct. And you hit the nail on the head. You don't have to focus on it. You can have them focus on it while you are making money.
Do you have specific tasks? I know we're talking about the marketing that directly increases your closings if I hire a VA today.
Yeah, I mean, it's outbound, right? What are you going to do outbound direct to seller, right? So in our office, we do a lot of direct to seller, whether it's online leads coming in, VAs pre-screen them. If we're buying leads, our VAs are pre-screening them and sending over who is interested to sell, because that's a very, very important part of obviously prospecting and all of what we do. We have VAs go out to other buyers, other wholesalers, other investors to get them on our list because investors are always looking to sell properties. So it's a very good way for us also to build up our brokerage because my partner here has a real estate brokerage, and I'm an agent underneath his brokerage. So we work on a lot of different things with his brokerage.
Okay. How do you, and we may get to this later. And this has happened to me twice now. I hired a VA through a company. I wanted the company because I knew an individual in the Philippines isn't necessarily going to have all of my technical opportunities answered and handled.
Yep.
I might change a system. I might say, hey, I need to do conversion from video to YouTube over to Instagram. They may not know how to do it.
Hmm.
And I didn't want to rely on an individual that didn't have the technical know-how. So I thought going through a company would be better because they could get answers to things they may not know. And they always did, and they always were able to resolve any of the technical things I was looking for. But inevitably, after about 2 years, they're going to call me directly and say,
Yeah.
"Can I just work for you directly?" And I know you know this, and it's not that they're really good people, but
Yeah.
they don't make a, a ton of money, but they make a good living. And there's always that opportunity to go around each other, just like they did in India. They always did the same thing over there too, because we outsourced with my other company a lot of jobs over to India. And then the second time it happened, my current one, she had an alias. I didn't know she had an alias. It didn't matter to me. And then she reaches out and say, "Hey, this is, Angel," and I'm like, "But it says someone else's name." And she's like, "Yeah, well, I'd like to leave them. Can I come work for you?"
Yep.
I'm like, okay. So, and I know the rule of thumb, right? Just charge half and they'll take it. So
Yeah.
I cut it in half because I don't have the company support anymore. And she did a good job. So
Yep.
it happened to me twice. I'm just saying, like, how do you keep your turnover low in that business?
We do a pretty good job. We pay very well, our VAs, and we have contracts as well from both the client side and obviously the VA side. But
Of course.
yeah, we do a good job of paying pretty good, and we also have a lot of benefits. We pay for their medical. We do a lot of, we have a lot of, like I said, we have a lot of benefits that make them stay. Like I said, one of the huge benefits too is we have a huge event coming up, and they all come in and we give away awards and things along those lines of VA appreciation, things like that, that always helps with retention.
Is that the event you said you're going to?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So you're going out there.
Yeah, I'm flying out there.
Okay.
Typically fly out at 2 a.m. here in the Eastern Standard Time. Takes about 20, probably 24-hour trip to get there.
Wow. That's a big commitment. And I think that will obviously go really well for longevity. I think people will feel, they're considered and appreciated, even though you don't see them every day.
Yeah, and I love it because everyone there is absolutely incredible. So having a company in the Philippines and the people there are just second to none.
So how do you, and this kind of answers the same question, hire, train, and manage VAs? If I hire one, how do I make them feel like, so I have a group, I call it the True West Realty Group. That was my brokerage before. I just turned it from Inc. to group.
Yep.
And everyone in the group, they can use my signs. They all feel like they're part of the True
Yeah.
West Realty Group. How do you have VAs feel like they're part of True West Realty, for example? What's some advice you would give?
So we have kind of a cool setup. We have what we call a CSM, a client service manager that manages each VA. So they have weekly meetings with their manager. So the VA does, and we keep in constant contact. We handle all the HR, so we're in constant contact. Our HR team reaches out to them all the time, see if they need any help, what kind of feedback they have, positive, negative. So then we're always staying ahead of the curve, NPS scores and things like that to make them feel like they're part of the team. We also pay for their health care. So like I said, there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that they come to, and we do all of their HR.
Yeah. And I like you said a title, and I thought about that. If I hired someone and I said, well, you're not the VA or assistant to Shaune,
Mhm.
you are client service manager or whatever. I mean, you give them a title.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's subtle things like that that you can do to make them feel like, okay, I'm the client service manager for True West Realty,
Yep.
even though I'm not living there or being there.
Yeah, in our we require VAs to send in a start of day report and end of day report as well. So then the jobs of our CSMs is to make sure that they are hitting the numbers they're supposed to hit for the clients as well. So it's a second level of management that is really, really important, that works out really well. So when they send out their end of day reports, our CSMs look at those and say, huh, if you're supposed to be calling, how many calls did you make? How many connects did you make? And they'll see different trends to say, while your connect rate is low, is it the list that's off? You're working for a property manager, you're working for an agent. What are the metrics? So when we have a new agent come on, they sit with our admissions team and they say, all right, what do you want the end result to be with this virtual assistant? So then kind of build a plan. So when it gets to the VA, we know how to create the end of day report of the results that agent wants.
Okay. I don't have mass lists or things. I don't do any type of cold marketing. I didn't learn it. I built my business exclusively on Sphere, but I feel like I could continue to give her more and more, and she just does it. I don't really because the price is good for me, and it maybe she works half the time one week and then extra time the next week. I don't know. I never seem to have enough work that I could give her, and she doesn't take care of it. So I appreciate that. Do you feel like a lot of them have excess time, or you have a lot of task oriented? If I call 100 people a day, you know what the number is, right? But
Yeah,
if you have an
exactly.
open ended and say, hey, here's your list for the week of all the different postings I need done, and they knock them all out, I always feel like I could just give her more and more and more, and she could do it.
Yeah,
Um,
what we do to handle that is just set the expectations up front of, what we're going to give them. And if there's anything else, then you'll put another task on there. But we typically know how much time it takes for certain tasks, and then we just
sure.
follow up. So we always recommend, and this is something that's very important. If anyone, listening is going to use a virtual assistant, treat them like they're literally part of your team because, I know since COVID, being remote. I know a lot of brokerages have gone remote, right? Cloud-based. We talked about that a little bit before, where they don't have offices. It's the same exact thing. So if you're working with another agent that's not in your office, in essence, you're working with someone virtual. So look at it the same exact way. It doesn't matter if they're in the Philippines or if they're in Egypt, like you said, or wherever they are virtual, not in your office. Treat them the same.
Yeah, I love that. A couple more things. So what do you think is the biggest mistake real estate agents have when they hire their very first VA?
They don't know what they want them to do. So upfront,
They know they
we
need one, but they don't properly assign out all the tasks. And so they
correct.
probably give them something easy and then something else that's easy, but they don't really plan out an actual job description.
And we also do realize that a lot of us included are control freaks, and we don't want to give up the tasks because
Yeah.
we think that anyone could do better than us. That's another thing that we see a lot.
Okay. I love it. Well, so we're going to post, you've got a lot of social media handles that I'm going to post in the YouTube video when it finally goes to final edit. And it's all going to be listed below. And you do have some really good task lists and things for agents to wrap their head around for hiring a VA. That's usually one of the first things. They don't know what they don't know. They don't know what they don't, what can they do? They can't sell houses for me. So what good are they to me? There's a lot of things you do you shouldn't be doing, and they can do a lot of those things. And so you've got on your revaglobal.com, the downloads, you've got some task lists and things that they can go to help them in their business. So I think that's a great tool, free out there for you guys. You guys can utilize that. Bob is available. He is in Connecticut, but anywhere in the US certainly could benefit from his services in even real estate investing. I'm sure there's ways you can coordinate and work through that, as well as your VA opportunities. Any other things that you want to share or mention?
No, I mean, I just want to let everyone know that, now is a great time to grow your business. I think that, as markets change and markets shift, there's only more opportunity. And I think we all have to get out there, continue to promote ourselves, continue to obviously listen to this podcast, because this is a phenomenal podcast to learn, as you have a lot of interesting different guests on that individuals could take out of it. So I think education and just implementing what you learn, I think that's very, very important going forward in any type of market shift.
Absolutely. Yeah. And when the market and the transaction count is lower and you make it through it, you're that much better off because a lot of people won't make it. So
Absolutely.
stay the course. You're doing great. Well, thank you so much, Bob, for joining me. I appreciate it. And for all of you that came on and watched the podcast, please subscribe. I've got a lot more coming out every week. I bring out another superstar guest, just like the one we had today. And there are some big ones coming up. And anything you need, you can always reach out to me directly. I'm always available. Thanks, everyone. Have a high performance week. That wraps up another episode of Real Estate Success DFW. I hope you're leaving with new insights that push your real estate career forward. If you enjoyed the show, please be sure to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with fellow agents who's ready to succeed. And if you're interested in working together or have any questions, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out to me directly. My personal phone is 214-228-0388. Let's connect and make real estate success happen together. Until next time, keep pushing forward. I'm Shaune Corbett, and this is the Real Estate Success DFW. Have a high performance week.